Live from downtown Vancouver at the Vancouver Film School campus, it's time for EP Live. Hey, welcome to EPN. My name is Victor Lucas, and you are watching the show that brings you the latest in everything cool. It is good to be back. We had a little pause on production on Wednesday. Our internet was down here in the cafe, but we figured everything out, and in fact, we've upgraded our internet a little bit, so the stream might even look a little bit better than it used to. You tell us. You let us know in the chat and the comments down below. We've got a packed show today, so we're going to jump right to it. We've got a couple of great guests that have Skyped in with us from England, Dax Ginn and Andy from What Boy Games. We're going to find out all about their latest title. It's called Trials of Fire very soon, but we've got a rundown to get to, and this one is going out to Vinny Vega, who said, I can't believe I haven't found this channel yet. I've been a fan since back in the G4 days. You guys are the best. Absolutely love the great content you are making. Keep it up. Cheers. Thank you so much, Vinny Vega. Let's get started with your rundown. The story actually broke last week, but we just have to talk about it because Square Enix is joining forces with Sony Pictures Television for a live-action Final Fantasy TV series. It will take place inside the same world as the MMO Final Fantasy XIV and include a mix of new characters and returning faces from the game, although it's unclear if the show will explore any of the same story threads. There have already been countless animated adaptations of Final Fantasy, including the 2001 theatrical film produced by Sony, but the new TV series will be the first ever live-action interpretation of the franchise. No word yet on a launch window, and I am actually very curious as to how Square and Sony went through all of the different Final Fantasy material to choose Final Fantasy XIV. Clearly, it is a resilient Final Fantasy because it's gone through all kinds of permutations and changes, and it perseveres, and there are lots and lots of people playing it to this day, which is very cool. But it has not been without its share of struggles. So that's been very interesting. Congratulations to everybody involved there, and let's keep our fingers crossed that one of these things that I report on, one of these movies or TV show adaptations of video games that we love, will actually blow us away and really take things to the next level, pun intended, and maybe it's going to be a Final Fantasy movie or a TV show. We'll find out soon. All right, Cuphead is an extremely stressful game to play, but that doesn't mean it has to be extremely stressful to make. Studio MDHR has delayed the release of the new Cuphead DLC expansion, The Delicious Last Course. It was slated to land later this year, but will now arrive in 2020, with the team saying that they need more time to avoid a stressful crunch period. They say that they instead want to work a work environment that's healthy and sustainable, and this will also give them more time to make sure that the DLC meets the level of quality that they strive for. The new DLC is coming to the Xbox, the Switch, PC, and all the platforms that the game is on. And I think that this is absolutely the right approach, and I hope that this is an approach that starts to filter throughout the video game industry. And as we start to become a lot more cognizant and a lot more aware of the transparency that each of these studios is trying to foster for us, I think one of the messages that they should strive to deliver to us as well is that they are taking care of their employees and they're considering how their people are working and how hard they're working, and they're trying to kind of, figure out a work-life balance for everybody. Everybody wants to create amazing things, and I think when you're in the arts, you sometimes you put your health aside because you just want to deliver something fantastic. And that's commendable, but years and years and years of that will take its toll on any human being out there. So I think this is fantastic news, and I wish everybody at Studio MDHR the best. I think that their story is incredible. I think Cuphead is an amazing launch title that really helped to define them as something very special and precious and worth preserving. And these are the steps that you take to do that, which is great. So we can wait, right? We can wait. Those Cuphead levels are still incredibly hard to beat. And if they're not, crank up the difficulty a little bit. All right, now speaking of difficult games, a new cowboy game is riding into town a little earlier than you might have expected. Mimimi Games and THQ Nordic have announced that their upcoming turn-based cowboy game, Desperados 3, will be getting a closed beta test next week. It kicks off Tuesday, July 9th on the PC and runs until Sunday, July 21st, with registrations open on the game's official website. Like the first two entries in the series, Desperados 3 is a turn-based strategy game set in the Old West West, allowing players to control their own outlaw gang. The final version will hit the PC as well as the Xbox One and the PS4 later this year. Now, this was a game that got nominated for Best Strategy Game as part of the E3 Critics Awards at E3. I got hands-on time with this title at pre-E3, and I freaking loved it. And I know that a lot of the other journalists that were there for that were also enamored with this title because it's so unique. It's so fresh. Yes, it has number 3 in the title, so this is a franchise that's been around for a little while, but Desperados is a top-down, isometric kind of viewpoint on a cowboy game, and you have to be smart with where you're moving your characters around. You have to do a lot of flanking around bad guys. You have, a set number of skills and a set number of moves that you can pull off within time constraints. And it does take a lot of your thinking power in order to keep progressing through the game. Lots of calamities will befall, and you've got to be ready for that and kind of anticipate a lot of that. It was just really, really cleverly made, really cool. And you play the game and it feels like, almost a hybrid of a tactical strategy game and maybe something like Metal Gear Solid or something. But the fact that it's all in a cowboy universe makes it very special. I'm very much looking forward to Desperados 3, and I wish THQ Nordic and Me Games the best of luck with this title, and I hope it kicks ass when it comes out later this year. But there you go. You can sign up and be a part of the early beta if it interests you. All right, now DC's troubled Flash movie has found another director to help bring it to the big screen. It director Andy Muschietti is the latest filmmaker to come aboard the stumbling superhero project. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Muschietti is currently in talks to direct and produce the Flash movie, which he'd begin shooting after finishing work on the upcoming It Chapter 2 due out this fall. The Flash has already gone through a long list of filmmakers as it struggled to get a green light, and there are even rumors that the studio wants to replace star Ezra Miller with another actor, although The Hollywood Reporter says he's still on board. I've been saying this since they announced that The Flash was coming into Justice League. We've got an incredible Barry Allen and Grant Gustin. And now with Stephen Amell kind of walking away from the Arrow role and, Grant Gustin kind of taking the boots of the veteran superhero in the Arrowverse, presumably after Gustin has done another season or two, he'll be even more ready to take on a feature film role and even be more ready to be continually associated with this character if he'd like to be. I think he's been killing it as this character since he started, and he's been surrounded by excellent actors. And I don't think that Ezra Miller's a bad actor by any sense of the word there at all. He's done an all right job with this, but Grant Gustin has been killing it, and he's been given an ample opportunity to help define this character and this role and his performance week after week after week. And I think this would be the best move ever for DC to say, look, you're going to come into the movie universe and we're going to make a big feature film version of The Flash. Now, presumably if they do that, they have to bring in all of the supporting actors from the TV show. But thankfully, they're all wonderful too. It's a great show. But if they do choose to go with Ezra Miller and sort of go in this armored Flash direction that Zack Snyder set up for us, it might be a lot of fun. He's certainly a good actor, and I love the character of the Flash. I think he's incredibly dynamic, and there's lots of great things that we can see on screen with this role. As we can clearly see from the weekly TV show, there's lots of incredible exploits in that show. So I just want to see it get made, but I want it to be awesome. I want it to be at least as good as what we saw out of Shazam and Wonder Woman and Aquaman. I think DC is starting to kind of transition and go into some interesting new space here. So hopefully this Flash movie comes together, and it comes together well. All right, that's our rundown for today. Let's take a look at this day in everything cool. Welcome to This Day and Everything Cool for July 5th. On this day in 1996, gamers got a cult classic to dream about. The 3D action game Nights into Dreams launched on the Sega Saturn in Japan, with a Western release following a few months later. The game was developed by Sega's Team Sonic division, making it only the second non-Sonic game developed by the team. It tells the story of two teenagers who are transported into a whimsical dream world where they befriend a purple flying dream creature named Nights and work together to stop nightmares from taking over. Each level represents a different dream, and the game game's combination of imaginative design, cool story, and fun gameplay made it one of the most memorable titles in the Sega Saturn library. Unfortunately, Nights into Dreams wasn't a huge financial success, but eventually established itself as a cult classic and was re-released on other platforms like the PS2. A sequel, Nights Journey of Dreams, was released on the Wii in 2008. All right, we're doing something a little bit different today because our next guests that normally we would have sit here or we would Skype with them live, they're based in the UK. And they were ready, this is how awesome Dax and Adam were, they were ready to Skype with us, even though it was going to be past midnight their time. And I said, no. We'll come in early and we'll shoot something and then we'll pre-record it and we'll put it into the show. And so that's exactly what we've done. I'm not going to intro us twice, so we're just going to get rolling right now on our interview. Hey, we are not live with this interview, just going to preface that, but we do have two very, very cool guests for us. They come from What Boy Games, and they've got a brand new game called Trials of Fire. First of all, welcome Dax and Adam. Sorry. It is fantastic to have you both here, and thank you for joining us on EP. I hope you guys are both doing great.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having us, Vic, and it's our fault that we ran out of time at E3, so thanks for making it up.
Oh, of course, man. I absolutely wanted to meet with you guys. You two are a small indie team now, but Dax, I know you from working at Rocksteady for many, many years, and so you split off and said you wanted to do your own thing. How did this all happen?
Yeah, I mean, I first met Adam when I joined Rocksteady just after Batman Arkham Asylum came out. So I joined the team to head up marketing, PR, community, everything like that at the Rocksteady team. Yeah. Adam was the lead gameplay coder on all of the Arkham games, from Arkham Asylum through to Arkham Knight. So wow. He and I worked together for like almost a decade. And last year, about a year ago, we set up What Boy Games. And then last month, on the 7th of May, we released our debut title, Trials of Fire.
That's incredible. So Adam, you've known Dax for more than 10 years at this point?
I think it's coming up to 10 years. Yeah, it's been a while. So yeah, I mean, as Dax said, I was lead gameplay programmer at Rocksteady. Left there about 18 months ago with the plan of kind of going off doing our own thing. And that's kind of where What Boy came from. Me and Dax met up, had a couple of drinks, and I decided it was a good fit.
You guys did such incredible work as a collective over at Rocksteady, and you've got fans all over the world of the Batman Arkham games. Did it just feel right for you guys to I imagine the pressure to constantly deliver games at that scale must be a little nuts. And was it just a point of, like, you guys said, we need a change, we want to try something different, or you've got a different game idea that's not going to fly at Rocksteady? What sort of precipitated this idea to go off and start your own thing?
I think it's the sort of thing that every developer really dreams of when you're working in AAA, thinking about, like, you know, what could I do under my own steam? What could I do in collaboration with other developers that you know and that you trust? And yeah. For me, at the end of Batman Arkham Knight and then Arkham VR, which came out in 2016, the decision was made that as a studio, Rocksteady wasn't going to make any more Batman games. And I thought, look, this has been such an incredible experience, but if I'm ever going to leave the studio and pursue that dream of kind of working independently, it's only fair to do it between two big things. You know, if you get a year, 2 years into a new project and then decide to leave the studio, you're leaving a lot of people in the lurch. So I think it was the right time, both for me personally and in terms of honoring the relationships that I had within the team there at Rocksteady.
Yeah, Rocksteady, I've been there because we did the making of Arkham Asylum, and I know how special a company it is. So for you guys to both decide that you wanted to go off on your own, what was it about the concept of Trials by Fire? What was the idea that you guys said, look, we have to go and do this?
Well, I mean, it was actually it's an idea I've had for quite a while. I kind of wanted to go off, do something a bit different to Batman games. That was kind of one of my reasons for wanting to leave. Something I could have like complete creative control over as well. Sort of, as much as I love working with DC and the license, just being able to sort of create something entirely from scratch was a big draw for me. So this idea kind of really came from from kind of my love for RPGs, for turn-based games, for tabletop games in general, and kind of a way that we can kind of make a game that really sort of takes that genre and sort of pushes it in ways that I kind of think it hasn't been pushed before. So really sort of focus on gameplay polish, sort of replayability, sort of quick gameplay, and that's kind of really where I came from. I mean, we left independently. We didn't kind of leave to sort of go off and do this together.
Oh, okay.
And then kind of we got in touch like couple of months after I left, and sort of Dax was looking to as well to do his own thing. As he said, he kind of headed up marketing and PR. I was kind of gameplay and design, so we kind of felt that together we kind of had everything we needed for sort of to set up a really great sort of indie studio and really sort of work on super polished games.
Awesome. Dax, put on your marketing hat here for a second and explain Trials by Fire for all of us out there. How do you sort of encapsulate this title?
You got it. Here's my marketing hat going on. Trials of Fire is a turn-based narrative deck builder, and it's set within a Dying Earth fantasy realm. And the entire game takes place within this massive book, this ancient mystical tome that we've created. And what we're saying with setting the game in a book is not that there's a story that's there to be read. What we're saying is every time the player opens the cover of that book, there's an adventure there that's waiting to be had.
Cool.
And the roguelike permadeath nature of the game means that every time you start a new adventure, every time you start a new run, the stakes are high and they only get higher. You begin by choosing a party of 3 heroes, selecting and customizing your party. And then as you head off on that adventure, those high stakes really are defined and shaped by the narrative and the tactical decisions that you make as the player on every single run. So we really wanted each run to be sort of between 2 to 3.5 hours, as Adam said, kind of short gameplay pieces, but each one being entirely unique and each one being entirely driven by player choice and decision, both narratively and tactically in combat.
That's awesome. Adam, is there a lot of procedurally generated content, so, much like a roguelike? Is it a different, kind of landscape or a different setting every time you open the book?
Yeah, so we have a world that we call semi-procedural. So we kind of have a fixed geography that we've kind of worked with our artists to make something that kind of makes sense and looks really cool. But on every run, kind of the place you start, the destination, kind of the points of interest along the way are all sort of procedurally set up. So that, again, it's semi-random, making sure there's kind of enough stuff for you to do along the way. So every run will be unique, but as you play, you'll kind of come to recognize certain areas. Even if you're passing through in a different direction, you'll kind of hopefully build up a sense of kind of the geography of this landscape as well over multiple playthroughs.
Do you lose all your stuff, or are you able to keep some of the loot that you've acquired on previous runs?
You don't keep any loot that you've acquired, but as you play through, you unlock new classes, new skills, lots of new options to play, new crafting recipes that you can kind of take back to the next run. So if you find piece of equipment you really liked on one run, you've kind of banked that recipe for future runs. So again, you don't kind of keep progress, but kind of you're unlocking more and more stuff to kind of go into each run with.
That's cool. How do you go about designing a game like this? These kinds of turn-based and card-based and strategic sort of oriented titles to me always seem like you labor for months and months and years on with pen and paper before you even start going into the video game realm. Describe sort of the development process for me.
Well, for me, I mean, one thing that has kind of really sort of defined kind of how I worked at Rocksteady and on Trials of Fire is kind of really just diving straight in and getting stuff working, not on pen and paper, actually, just on the computer. We were using Unreal Engine, so I was able to kind of almost as soon as we left Rocksteady, just get something up and running really quickly. Stick in a sort of rudimentary AI, so we test it over and over again, play it, refine it. So kind of, as I said, I had a sort of a strong initial idea of how I wanted it to work, but that kind of really developed over sort of lots of iterations, a lot of testing, lots of getting people to play it. And As I said, when we first met up, it was kind of 2 or 3 months in development. Would actually say, or the test, it was looking pretty ropey, but a lot of the core of the gameplay was already there very early on. I think that's really the way to go forward.
Well, this is
the thing that really struck me. Vic, sorry, when Adam and I met up, we were near his place, and we went to his local pub and we had a few pints, and then I was like, okay, pitch me the game. He's like, I'm not going to pitch it. You can play it. I'll just send you the build. So I went home and he sent me the build. And, like all prototype games, it wasn't about how it looks, it was about how it played. And right from day one, the quality of the gameplay was just crystal clear for me to see. And that's what just got me so excited about the idea of us collaborating on something that had such high quality right from the start. And that's been our commitment as a studio is, we bring that AAA gameplay polish that we know so well from our years and years working on big AAA titles. We bring that same attitude to the indie space. And even though the game's only been out for 7 weeks now, the feedback we're getting from the community on Discord or the Steam forums really speaks to that commitment to quality that's really shining through in the game.
Well, that is a brand new sort of element to be introduced here. You guys are used to creating lots and lots of buzz and tailoring the marketing specifically for when you tease out little bits and pieces of reveals and you just sort of send out little morsels.
That for everyone.
Well, we just the anticipation builds and builds, for a Batman game. That we're still waiting to hear if Rocksteady's ever going to make one of those for us, but it sounds like they're not. But with this game, you're like, play it. It's an early access. Go ahead, jump in. Let's see. And you're evolving it. And is that a weird thing for you guys to wrap your head around, or is this something that you're embracing? Are you big, supporters and proponents of early access titles? Were you supporting other indie titles that were doing something similar, or is this freaking you guys out?
Yeah, it's kind of been, it has been quite a shift, but it's been really exciting, just as Dex said, sort of getting people playing the game over the last 6 or 7 weeks. We kind of had so much feedback, people sort of playing the game, telling us what they like, some things they don't like, and I think the game has kind of really evolved in that time. And I actually find it really nice to have that kind of direct sort of input and feedback with the community that we didn't have so much at Rocksteady. We kind of sort of labor away in a bunker for 2 to 4 years and then sort of throw something out there and obviously pray that people liked it. But it's very different now, and I'm really kind of enjoying that sort of sitting there working directly with the community, sort of talking to people, trying to sort of dig in, find out what they like, and if there's stuff they want to see changes, just trying to get to the bottom of that. So yeah, I think it's been quite a shift to the way I'm used to working, at least, but I'm really enjoying it.
Awesome.
And building relationships with streamers as well. That's something throughout the Arkham franchise. We were terrified about anything leaking, character reveals, any gameplay features, any screenshots. We were really paranoid about ensuring that nothing was spoiled for players when we released on that, that day one, that it was all fresh.
Sure.
Whereas now in early access, we're looking forward to a full launch, April next year-ish is sort of where we're targeting, maybe a little bit later than that, but in that zone. But here we are in early access, talking to streamers, talking to content creators, giving them whatever they need in order to play the game, share the game, provide feedback to us directly and to the people who form their audience. And that, to me, is a real crazy shift from being very secretive about your development to now being incredibly open and incredibly sort of generous where you can, because you just want as many people as possible to see the game the way that you see it. And streaming has really changed that entire dynamic for PR, marketing, community management. It's a completely different ballgame now.
Well, I know from interviewing you many times over the years, you always had felt kind of buttoned up. You had to be very restrained in how much you could tell us, and I think you maybe let a few things slip.
I'm free now, Vic. I'm free.
But what's cool is, as we're conducting this interview, this is kind of a great snapshot of what Boy Games is, isn't it? Because you don't work together in the same office, in the same studio, which is also new, because at Rocksteady you were all in the same facility, but now I guess you work together virtually, and then there are other contributors that are also virtually adding things in. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. So Dax and I, we both work remotely. We're the only sort of 2 full-time devs at Whatboy, but we use a lot of friends, a lot of people we used to work with in the industry. We got sort of great contacts from Rocksteady and people we know. So we're working with people who've kind of gone on from AAA development, working freelance. People we know kind of really understand that quality level we're looking for. And we can sort of throw stuff at them and kind of expect really good results back. We don't have to kind of worry about too much about sort of interviewing, start finding the right people, because we know so many great people who kind of moved on to freelance. So we've been sort of we're working with about seven or eight people sort of on and off to sort of produce a lot of the art assets, audio assets, animations in the game. So yeah, it's very different. We're all working remotely in our bedrooms, sort of communicating on Slack and Skype. But yeah, the plan is kind of going forward to build Whatboy into a studio. Once we kind of got a game under our belt, we've got some fan base, some money coming in to sort of really sort of start building that studio.
That's cool.
Really,
where would you guys be based ideally? Are you, because you're in Wales right now, right? And you're in Brighton. They're pretty far apart in the UK. There's a lot of geography.
Well, no, I'm not in Wales. I'm in Surrey, which is south of London. But
oh, okay.
It's all right.
Okay.
So it's actually quite easy to get from one to the other. We've had quite a few discussions of where we set up. We haven't settled on anywhere yet, but.
If you draw a line between the two and put a dart in the midpoint, you end up in Croydon, which
Gatwick.
Yeah, which isn't the sexiest part of the UK. So I don't know, maybe Vancouver. I don't know.
Vancouver would be rad. Yeah, it's pretty awesome out here. It's not cheap though.
Okay.
It's cheaper than London.
I don't know. I think it might actually be a little less expensive to set up in the UK right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Who knows? How big do you guys want to make Whatboy Entertainment?
So the ultimate plan is to sort of make it not kind of go sort of full AAA, sort of really focus on what Dax likes to call triple I. So focus on sort of keep the team small, eventually go up to sort of 30 to 40 people, just really focusing on sort of smaller games, sort of building on our strengths, working on games that are much more sort of gameplay focused, so procedural content, repeatable gameplay, that kind of stuff.
Is that something that we could say is a bit of a trend in AAA? Is that, once you've hit a few of these marks, it does start to feel a little exhausting? And are you starting to see a lot of colleagues kind of make a shift like this and try to move over into the indie space?
I think you would have seen yourself, Vic, having visited so many big AAA teams, big publishers over the years. I mean, you have been doing this longer than anyone I know.
Yep.
And are one of the best connected people in the industry. So you've seen those 300, 400, 500 dev studios.
Yep.
And having, when you work in that environment, it's incredible what you can get done with 300 people all pulling in the same direction. But the sheer management of a team of that size and keeping focus and kind of creative dedication over a long period of time, 3, 4, 5 years in most cases, there's something about the idea of breaking away from all of that and working quickly, working with people you know and love and trust, having pretty complete creative control over the work that you're making, and then being able to build those relationships with community and streamers and other people in the industry. It's a very, very attractive place to go. But once you're there, like we are, there's a whole new range of factors in terms of running a company, running a studio, pitching your game, establishing funding, going to E3 and having to pay for your own flights, all of that stuff.
All the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff is the reality of running a studio. And so you've sort of got to take the rough with the smooth like that. But I've never been happier than I am right now working in such a kind of close environment with people that I just know and love and who I know make great work, and keeping it small and keeping it focused. So even as Whatboy grows, that's really the essence for us, is how do we maintain a culture to the studio that gives us those things that we left AAA for.
Right. And I think part of the joy of veterans like yourself is that you were there as the studio was sort of, finding its way and becoming a bigger studio. You saw it grow from smaller to bigger. And I think what a lot of people don't understand on the playing side of making video games, that the building of a company is part of the engagement of it all and part of the attraction for it. It's not just finishing a game and shipping it. It's growing a business and watching it do well. And is this the first company that you guys have gone off to kind of create on your own?
Yes, it was for me, I think.
I set up a creative agency before I joined Rocksteady.
Yep.
That was focused on making trailers and doing sort of marketing assets and collateral. So I did that for about 6 or 8 months. And then the guys at Rocksteady reached out to me and said, look, we've just been acquired by Warner Brothers. Do you want to come and join and sort of do a similar role within the Rocksteady studio? So that was kind of the job interview, like the CV that I had running a company got me the job at Rocksteady, and now through that, having met Adam and then setting up What Boy, kind of feels like there's a nice sort of circular destiny to that.
Yeah, there's a real understanding there. When I see the game too, it looks so polished already, and it does feel like a lot of veterans are working on this. Is that going to be the way that What Boy kind of evolves? Are you going to be looking to bring in just people that have come from AAA that want to try something different, or are you also kind of opening the idea to people that are just coming out of schools, like the one that we're broadcasting out of here, the Vancouver Film School? Are you guys going to have a lot of younger people joining your teams as well?
I mean, I imagine it's going to end up being. I mean, if everything goes to plan, it's going to end up being a mixture of both. I mean, we know sort of great people that we want to work with, but we understand that there's kind of a lot of benefit in kind of getting sort of people who are very young, very passionate. Like we have one of our main artists. He feels like he's about 7, but he's probably a bit older than that. And he's just amazingly passionate. A guy called Max. And I think, we're kind of hoping to sort of strike a nice balance of kind of hiring on people like us who've kind of been through sort of the AAA mindset, who kind of understand kind of what it means to make a polished game, but also sort of, as you say, give opportunities to people sort of young and enthusiastic, getting in fresh ideas, that kind of thing.
That's awesome. I'm curious about the way that Trials of Fire is going to be monetized. Is it one and done? You pay for it and you get the whole thing, or are you thinking of a whole microtransaction strategy or anything like that? What are you guys doing that way?
Life is complicated enough, Vic. I think when it comes to games, you just pay a price and have the game.
Yeah.
That, for us, is the way to most honor the authenticity and the attitude that we have towards players who want to play the games that we make. It's so easy to get tied in knots with microtransactions and payments and this and that, and there's so much bad PR that gets kicked up with that prevents us or prevents developers from being able to focus on the things I want to talk about, which is the core gameplay systems and the gameplay experience that they've created. So my attitude is we just keep it simple, and that way we can focus on making a great game. If the price is right for gamers when they are considering the game, then I hope that they buy it. If not, then no worries. But this whole idea of building a game to serve a very complex business model, man, life is too short for that. We're just not interested in that.
Hear, man. Is that a philosophy at What Boy? Is that sort of part of the mission statement for the company?
I mean, what we want to do is really sort of build a great relationship with our community. So for Trials of Fire, it's kind of one and done. Hopefully, if things go well, we'll release some DLC post-launch. But again, that'll be focused on a sort of really new gameplay stuff, new characters, new stories, that kind of thing. So making sure people feel that they're kind of getting value for their money. I mean, going forward, we want to keep that philosophy. So yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the plan going in future games. But of course that may change depending on kind of the kind of game we make and what kind of makes sense for that game.
That's awesome. Now, Trials of Fire is billed as a single-player experience, but it's a strategy. There's definitely big strategic components in the gameplay. Is there a multiplayer skew of this, or a future update that will give people the opportunity to play against each other? It looks like it should be a multiplayer game, but I know you guys are focusing on a single-player experience.
No, the game is single player.
Okay.
Only.
Okay. Very cool. And so people can check the game out right now. It's in early access on Steam. Is it going to be on any other stores out there?
We're on early access on Steam at the moment. We're kind of looking to other options down the track, but right now, our focus is on just bedding in that early access period and kind of getting our feet on the table, really. So the early access will probably go through till kind of February, March next year.
Yep.
And then we'll really take a view at that point how we proceed with launch and what other platforms we're kind of looking at. But
yes, the plan is at full launch to kind of release on as many platforms as makes sense.
Awesome. And is there a potential for consoles? Is it something that could be on a Switch or on PlayStation or Xbox?
Absolutely. I mean, we've always planned post full release. We'd love to launch on kind of Switch, Xbox, tablet. So all those things I think would be a great fit for the game. But for the moment, we're just kind of focused on that PC early access, getting that to a state where we think it's finished, and then we're going to look at other platforms.
That is awesome. Guys, let's definitely get together again as we're getting a little bit closer to launch, and maybe it'll be something that we can do in person at some event or something, because I know that this story for What Boy is just beginning, but thank you both for making some time to meet with me today, and congratulations on the launch of this game, and much success to both of you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Vic. Thanks for your time today.
Of course, and also big thanks for all of your contributions to my favorite game trilogy in the Batman Arkham games. You guys know how much I freaking adore those games, so thank you both.
Thank you.
All right.
Pleasure.
All right, take care. That was a blast. Thank you so much to Dax and to Adam for Skyping in this morning. And it was also a lot of fun to chat with everybody on the chat as we were watching. I don't often get to do that. We played some of the video in the cafe here, which is at 390 West Hastings in Vancouver, BC, by the way. Come on down and join the live show when you're in the Vancouver area. That would be great. But a lot of people started talking about making ofs, and somebody was mentioning, am I working on a game, and am I making a vlog behind the scenes there? I think that was Robert Xavier. No, I'm not, but I love having developers like these two in our programming, because I feel like not enough of these conversations are happening, especially on YouTube. And I feel like there's just some fascinating discussion that's happening there. And the other thing that I really love is, and I'm quite proud of, is the documentary work that we've been able to do as a production company as well. We have one that we're working on right now, which I can't wait to tell you guys about. It's getting closer and closer to being finished. And we've been working on it for a while. But it's about a very cool game from the past. And I just think that they're incredibly important. And during the production of this documentary, I just did a random search for Sega Genesis documentary on Google. And our old documentary on Golden Axe, which Sega paid for with Next Level back in the day, popped up as like the number 3 thing on the search. And I just thought it was really cool. I would love to be doing a lot more of the documentary projects. I talk to various companies within the video game industry every once in a while, but I love that work. I think it's important work. I think we need to document the development of this stuff, and not as a marketing tool, just as a straight, investigative, honest, conversational story. Like, where did these things come from? What's getting all of this this creative work from your teams out there? So if there are game studios or publishers or whatever that are thinking of doing a little bit more of this doc stuff, please reach out. We've done a ton of them, and we love doing them. And I think they're valuable, and it really makes me recognize that when we're doing a doc on a game that deserved it back in the day, but never got one made. And here we are in 2019, and we're doing that. So, anyways, enough about that. Speaking of celebrating past work, I recently took a look at another collection from Konami, the Contra collection. But here's my look at the Castlevania Anniversary Collection. Just like the Contra collection that I reviewed not too long ago, I've been packing around the Castlevania Anniversary Collection on my Nintendo Switch, and I've been pecking at it. I've been enjoying little bits and pieces of the various games that are available on there, as well as the bonus material that's available in there, and I've been having a ton of fun re-experiencing some of these classics. I especially like Castlevania 2 Belmont's Revenge, where you get to choose which of the different paths you want to take within the game. But you know what? It was still fun to go right back to the beginning and play the original Castlevania title. It does feel a little bit slow in these modern times and all of these sort of future subsequent iterations of Castlevania that we got, but it was pretty amazing to hear that music come through. That's one thing that I will say about the entirety of this collection. The music is wonderful. They still managed to eke out some really cool MIDI music that evokes all kinds of nightmarish scenarios, and it plays well in 2019. Even if you go right back to the very beginning, and you get not one but 3 different NES titles, actually 4 if you count Kid Dracula, which was never released in North America until now. This Famicom game has been localized to North America, and it's a cutesy sort of platformer where you're hurling things at bad guys, and you get little cutesy Frankenstein monsters and little beasties and stuff. And bats. Of course, tons of bats in all of these games. Get ready for lots of bats. It's a little incongruous. You don't really see how they fit it into, other than it's Dracula, but it doesn't really feel like a Castlevania game. It's sort of like crammed in. It's like they had a generic action platformer and then they made a Dracula cutesy character and they threw that in there. But it's still fun. The classic Game Boy games, you get 2 of them. They're both so cool. They're both so much fun to re-explore. Now, obviously, the Castlevania experience when you go to the Game Boy is slowed down a lot. There's a lot less bad guys. The backgrounds are just sort of like pencil etchings, so it doesn't really pop off the screen per se, but it is amazing that developers were able to distill the whole Castlevania core experience and give you something really fun and, just really enjoyable to dive into. It's almost like you're flipping through the black and white sort of early sketches of a comic book or something like that. I was really appreciative of being able to jump into Bloodlines, which is a Castlevania title that I've never played. This was out for the Sega Genesis, and I know that this is also coming to the Mini Genesis later on this year, so there'll be another way to play this if you haven't already enjoyed this title. And of course, you can also dive into the Japanese versions of the games and see how the Japanese titles differ from the North American releases. Now, by that 3rd Castlevania title, yes, the developers at Konami were really nailing the formula. They really got... I think they were pretty ambitious with the storytelling, and don't ask me to kind of encapsulate where all of these different stories go, or the different generations or bloodlines that we have throughout all of these different games. That's for a different video, and probably not even on the EPN channel, to be quite honest. It gets convoluted. But what we did see is the refinement in the gameplay and the mechanics, and everything just got a little bit tighter, a little bit better. The power-ups were doled out in a little bit more of an efficient and forgiving manner, because that's one thing that you can say all the way across the board with these Castlevania titles, is that they are challenging and they are going to create some frustration. You're going to jump into water and you're going to go poof into nothing, and then you're going to lose a character and you got to start again, and there's a lot of that stuff. You're going to miss the little tiny pixels that you have to do to get the stairs just right. You're going to fall down into your doom, and then you're going to have to start again, or you're going to try to swing across a chasm and not be able to do it. Start again. You're going to be doing that a lot. But as we started to see these developers take new kicks at this, suddenly our characters were doing cool things like swinging across chasms and challenging big boss fights with, boomerangs and all kinds of great power-ups and abilities. Incredibly fun. I have to provide this caveat that I think the most interesting and most exciting Castlevania games, the better games, that Castlevania has provided us over the years, they're actually not included on this collection. We're not getting into Castlevania Symphony of the Night or any of the GBA games or the DS games or PSP games, or even the more modern, interpretations of Castlevania that we've seen on recent consoles like the Xbox 360. And because of that, I don't feel like this is the definitive Castlevania collection by any means. I guess presumably Konami will wrap up a bunch of the other excellent Castlevania titles that are out there and make another collection. But all of the games are really fun to jump into and to appreciate and to enjoy. And like I've said many times before, I think it's really important for publishers out there, especially companies with the breadth of titles and the number of years under their belt like Konami, to go back into their archives and find lots of exciting ways to deliver some of this previous content that was so important, so seminal, so foundational for this business. And certainly we've named a whole genre of video games after Castlevania, Metroidvania games. I think it's important for us to have these titles at our fingertips whenever we want. And the great thing about this collection, although it is sublime on the Switch because it's the perfect experience to pick up and play anywhere that you want to, you can also get this on the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, or the PC. It's also really cool to dive into the booklet and see some of the design elements in there. There's an interview with one of the composers that has worked on Castlevania titles, an acknowledgement of the success and the permanence of this Castlevania franchise, which is great. This is a fantastic collection. There is a lot of enjoyment in here, especially if you're a Castlevania fan going way back. It's going to be a blast to dive back into these titles. I am going to continue playing these games because these are games that deserve their place in video game history, and it's great that they're all collected here. I do wish that Konami had thrown in some more. I don't know what they're going to do for those other titles, but still, you get a nice chunk of great Castlevania titles and some good history to dive into. I'm going to give the Castlevania Anniversary Collection a 9 out of 10. Yes, if you're a Castlevania fan, you have no excuse. You got to check that one out. It is weird that we didn't get more of the Castlevania games, though, right? Does everybody agree with that? David Walcott is here with us. We've got Let's Play and Chat has made it back. Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining us. And since Stranger Things debuted, Season 3 debuted last night at around midnight or 9 o'clock our time. I'm already 6 episodes into the show. It's very addictive. Are you a fan of Stranger Things?
It's a really good show.
Yeah. Well, we've got the game. We've got it loaded up on this this new Asus Republic of Gamers laptop that Asus sent out to us. It's going to live on the set for a little while, so thank you very much, Asus. Am I saying it right, Asus?
Yep.
Yeah. So let's play a little Stranger Things 3, the game. And if you've got any comments or questions on today's show, on David's scarf, or the game, or anything that has been said, or anything, any questions, any comments, go ahead and ask them.
Ask us in the chat.
Ask us in the chat.
Nintendo games. Oh, like Zelda, Mega Man? I love Mega Man.
So Mega Man is your favorite?
My favorite.
Okay,
That's
all
the
right.
only reason I'm getting the Switch. Mega Man.
Yeah? You're going to get the Mega Man Legacy collections?
Yes.
There's 4 of those.
I'm hoping that the rest come out.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Mega Man Zero?
Yes.
The one with long hair? Yeah. That's my favorite.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, they have all those Mega Man Legacy collections. I love these collections. They're awesome, man. They feel like great values. We were putting this mic closer to you.
Skip that.
There you go. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and those Mega Man collections are fantastic. They did a great job on all the historical stuff as well.
Yeah. That's why I was a little bit disappointed with Mighty Number 9.
Yeah.
You remember it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't have enough behind the scenes, and the game wasn't.
It wasn't what I was
wasn't
expecting.
as good as it should have been.
Yeah.
It was just okay. Have you played Bloodstained?
No, but is that like the Castlevania style?
Yes,
game?
and I'm into the game. I can't review it, but actually, I'm going to reserve my comments on Bloodstained until I get a little farther, because I will have a review for you on that one. Okay, thoughts on the new Little Mermaid casting? Halle Bailey.
Haley Bailey. Yeah.
Haley Bailey. I saw a picture of her, and she looks fantastic. I think she's going to be perfect for the role.
Yeah.
And I think it's blown up on the internet. This casting of this girl has just been there's just been crazy comments about this thing all over the place.
Yeah, I've seen them.
We all know about these things.
Yes.
Somebody on my Facebook page posted it, and then somebody who I was a little shocked just said that I'm not going to call the person out or whatever, but they said that it's weird because he knows some redheads, and it feels like the redhead doesn't get a chance to be a star. And I was like, what are you even talking about, man? Who cares? She's going to be great. And the thing that I zeroed in on, and it goes back to Will Smith as the genie. I thought by making him the blue genie that we knew from Robin Williams' performance, they undercut what Robin Williams did, and they didn't let Will Smith do enough of his own thing. They kind of fused him into what we already had a preconceived idea of, and I don't think that served anybody, you know? Like, let's make these live-action adaptations a new thing. Let's make them feel fresh.
So you want different stories? You don't want them to just copy the template?
I don't mind if the stories follow the theme, but make them stand apart. Make them be their own thing. Because what inevitably happens is that if we take a property and then in a new generation completely abandon everything that we knew from the previous generation, that becomes the de facto way that people are brought into that world. And if we're just doing a copy of what was done in the animation stuff, then it's not really a big creative win. It's not the creative win that it could be. And that's what I felt about Aladdin. I thought it wasn't as creatively successful as the movie could have been if they let go of the reins a little bit. They could have stayed with the same story, just a different kind of vibe, a different kind of look. I like some of the choices, but not all of them. And I actually liked that about Dumbo, is that it got weird. And it's not a great movie, but at least Tim Burton went a little off the rails with that flick, you know?
So what are your thoughts about The Lion King? I heard it's not a one-to-one adaptation, but it's going to be pretty close.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's the point?
Yeah, what's the point? Like, honestly, like these animated classics that Disney I mean, obviously it's about maintaining attention for the new generations when they go to the theme parks. They know who all these characters are, and they're, revitalizing their properties, and they have every right to do that. But it really diminishes the impact of the originals,
Yes.
Suddenly they're just forgotten, And so now with The Little Mermaid, I think this is the right choice. You have the classic original animated movie for fans that grew up with that, and then we're going to have a whole new take on the new live-action Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And clearly they took some time to figure out who was right for the role, and they cast somebody cool. So there it is. Yo. You're going to do some dancing? Okay. All right, okay. What is your take on Epic Games' intent to purchase further Kickstarter titles? Do you think they should be further protection for backers to prevent these types of situations? So I don't know if I understand this completely, but I understand with Shenmue 3, because it's only going to be available on the Epic Games Store. Frankly, I don't quite understand why everybody's up in arms about Epic Games trying to make a case for itself as an alternative to Steam.
Right.
I think it's okay that Epic Games is another choice for people out there, and they have lots of money and great relationships with developers, and they're just trying to offer an alternative in the marketplace for Steam. And I recognize that people have Steam friends and a huge library on Steam, but you don't have to stop using Steam to also use Epic Games. And if Epic Games is going to honor refunds and try to support some developers out there, I think it's okay. So I'm all right with that. And is the news here that do you know anything about this, Blake? Are they funding Kickstarter projects to bring them as exclusives to Epic? Yeah.
I think a lot of people, they just don't want to have like a second launcher.
Yeah.
So, and they're so dedicated to Steam that having to download like a new launcher is like too much for them.
It's so silly.
Well, people are getting lazy.
It's like a console war within your console.
Yeah.
It's insanity. Okay. All right, here we go. I enjoyed Will Smith as the genie. He was easily the best part about Aladdin. I did enjoy how they developed Jasmine further, too. A lot of people love this movie. It's a huge hit. Robert Xavier Drac falls for a healer and teaches her the knowledge of the ancients, but the church kills her for witchcraft. Spurring his wrath, Drac's son Alucard and Hunter Belmont must end him before he ends all.
Oh, the story.
Is that the story of Castlevania right there? Is that all of them
it.
collapsed into one? That's pretty incredible. Okay, do you know what's happening here? It's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
You're bouncing into... so there are spoilers... if you haven't seen Season 3. Yeah, this is all around Season 3 content in here. It takes place in Starcourt Mall, and there are some evil-looking dudes like that, but just keep going into it. Olaf Christensen, people worrying about redheads not getting enough parts. It's just, it's like the internet has given us all a platform to just like gripe. It's inner gripe. What is your, okay, that was Sam I Am's question. Castlevania needs a reboot. Yes. I was thinking though, you know how we dig these 3D takes on the classic 2D games where they use 3D polygons and textured sort of backgrounds and graphics, but it's 2D design.
Yeah.
And we love stuff like that when we did that with Metroid recently. Well, Castlevania's had a bunch of those on the DS and the PSP, and I think on the 3DS. Bring those to the Switch, you know? Like, just bring them out again, or let us be able to play those games again. Because they're just sitting right there. They're already made.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yes. Ms. Hojat, having a launcher at all is why I don't like Steam app much in the first place. People shouldn't blame another company for just doing the same thing, even if it's more of stuff people don't like. I mean, ultimately what's going to happen, I think, with Epic and Steam is that competition will breed better service and better value for customers and more opportunities for developers to reach people.
That's exactly the way I feel.
Yeah, and same with Steam coming into the market, or Stadia coming into the marketplace, and Uplay Plus and EA, you know, turning the cranks on what they're offering, and the Xbox Game Pass. You know, we're moving forward on this, have a library that you can access everywhere. And yes, it sort of changes it into more of a subscription service type model, and more like you're renting the games than you're physically owning them. But you're going to have access to everything everywhere, like Netflix, you know, and we're playing a game based on a Netflix show right now. It's all
very meta.
It's all meta and connected, yeah. Let's see. I prefer online marketplaces that don't require launchers to run the game. Konami should not make new games and just focus on getting people like M2 to make collections. Blair Farrell, I think there's an argument for that. I think that there are, you know, we move so quickly in the video game industry, and this is why the emulation scene and why there's so many retro gaming video channels on YouTube. We move so quickly that we forget there are awesome titles just sitting there. And, you know, new players are coming into the marketplace all the time. They're you know, starting their gaming career on PlayStation 4, and they're not even aware that there's awesome games that came before them. And we just forget about it. It's like one of the only like mass media's out there that just sort of says we're going to kill our past, you know, just like Kylo Ren. We're just going to kill it, and we're going to just start from scratch, and we're going to forget all about it. And I think the business is having some turnaround on that thought right now. You know, I think that the PlayStation 5 will be backwards compatible. I think Xbox's endeavors to allow us to play some of our classic library has been commendable. I think Nintendo putting the NES stuff as part of their online service, these are all good moves. And presumably Stadia is going to have a great big back catalog of titles that you'll be able to launch right away. I bet you that will be one of the components that will help sell that service. Is I think a lot of publishers will say, sure, you can play, you know, games from the 2000s just by being a subscriber, and it won't cost us anything. You know, they're going to be able to make big moves like that, which is going to be interesting.
Speaking of Nintendo, they have a lot of backlog that I think they could just put out. Yeah, they have a lot of games that I would love to play right now.
And I talk about this all the time. Like the licensed games that came out in various eras, we made fun of them all the time, you know, and there was a lot of crap for sure, but there also was some fun stuff like this, which is clearly derivative of Zombies Ate My Neighbors and titles like that. But they also, you know, they represent, like that Scott Pilgrim game that came out a few years ago. I don't even know if you can get that anymore. I don't know if it's on the stores. Do you watch you can't get it, right? Which is crazy, right? Like they lose the license, and that game is gone. I installed Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions onto this laptop because it's one of my favorite Spider-Man games. I don't even know if you can buy that anymore on the store, but it's on this. It's in my library in Steam, so I could re-download it and play it. But there's this whole mass of great licensed titles that, because the licenses lapse, they're gone forever, and that's so unfortunate, because they represent a moment in time. They're like time capsules. Yeah. Anyways, Jeff Meacham, Vic, you got to see Batman: City of Scars. It is a fan-made Batman movie. It really is good. I'll check that out. Thank you. Let's see what we got here. The creator of Scott Pilgrim wants to get it back. I'm not sure what the holdup is. Yeah. See, that's crazy. Hi, Vic. Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. Okay, Donovan, I don't know what you're saying. Excellent game. Uncle Jay has got a question here. What do you think about the upcoming Gremlins animated TV show? And this is going to be our last question. Are you a fan of the movies? I love the Gremlins movies. We started to watch them with my 6-year-old daughter at the time. She's 7 now, and it got a little too freaky for her, so we turned it off at Christmas time because there's some Christmas themes in there. You've seen those movies, right?
Yes.
They're amazing. But this year, for sure, we're going to watch those. I'm psyched that there's the Gremlins animated show, and I wasn't a massive Dark Crystal fan when the original came out in the 80s, but I want to go back to it, partially through the eyes of my kid as well, and I'm psyched that that's come back as well. And with things like Netflix, or Netflix and Stranger Things here, it's like the 80s will never die, which is it's kind of wonderful for someone that actually was alive and lived through a lot of this stuff. Not that I had giant mutated creatures in my shopping mall, at least I don't think. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun to remember the past. I guess that's the theme of the show today.
Yeah. So don't let the past die.
Don't let the past die, right? Kylo Ren, you are wrong. All right, you guys, that does it for our show today. We've got some great guests lined up for Monday. They're part of the Women in Games initiative here in Vancouver, and they have partnered with the VFS video game division on some really cool scholarship opportunities. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk a little bit about women in games in general, but it's going to be a very fun conversation. So please come, and you can come down to 390 West Hastings in Vancouver and watch the show live like these fine folks have today, or you can watch on the stream. Have yourselves a fantastic weekend, and remember, play forever.